Welcome to this channel. This story explores themes of family, jealousy, and the consequences of our choices. It's a tale that has been passed down through generations, showing us the impact of unchecked emotions and the importance of love and humility. So, let's take a close look at the lives of Cain and Abel, their offerings to God, and the events that ultimately led to a tragic outcome. Let's begin. After Adam and Eve were sent out of the Garden of Eden, life was completely different. They worked hard, building a life for themselves outside of paradise. They knew what they had lost and felt the weight of their choices every day, but they also began to build a family. In time, Eve gave birth to her first son, Cain, and she was filled with joy. She held him close and said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." It was a moment of hope and joy, a new beginning. Later, Eve gave birth to another son, whom they named Abel. The two brothers grew up together, learning the ways of the land and hearing stories from their parents about the life they once had in Eden. As the years passed, Cain and Abel grew into young men, each finding his own path. Cain became a farmer, tending to the soil and growing crops. He spent his days under the sun, working the land, planting seeds, and watching them grow into food for his family. Abel, on the other hand, became a shepherd, caring for flocks of sheep. He led them to pastures, tended to their needs, and protected them from danger. One day, both Cain and Abel decided to bring an offering to God. It was a tradition they had learned from their parents, a way to show gratitude and respect for the Creator. Cain brought some of the produce from his fields, an offering of fruits and vegetables he had grown. Abel, however, chose the very best portions from the firstborn of his flock, the finest and fattest of his lambs. Abel's offering was carefully chosen, a gift that showed his deep devotion and love for God. When the time came for God to look upon their offerings, he accepted Abel's gift with favor. Abel's offering pleased God. It was sincere and given with a whole heart. God saw the care Abel had put into choosing his gift, and he accepted it with warmth. But when God looked at Cain's offering, he did not regard it in the same way. For reasons not fully explained, Cain's offering didn't receive the same favor. Perhaps it was given out of routine, without much thought. Or maybe Cain's heart wasn't in the right place when he made the offering. Cain could feel the difference, and it stung. His heart sank as he realized that his gift wasn't received with the same warmth as Abel's. He became angry and bitter, his emotions spiraling into a dark place. He felt rejected and hurt, his heart clouded with resentment and jealousy toward his brother. Cain's face was downcast, and he withdrew into himself, letting his anger grow. God saw Cain's troubled heart and spoke to him with kindness, wanting to guide him back on the right path. "Why are you so angry?" God asked. "Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, won't you be accepted?" God's words were gentle but firm, reminding Cain that he had a choice. He could let go of his anger and try again with a sincere heart, or he could allow the darkness within him to take control. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. God's warning was clear. Sin was like a predator waiting to strike, and Cain was standing on the edge. It was up to him to decide, to either let go of his bitterness or let it consume him. But instead of heeding God's warning, Cain let his jealousy take over. His anger toward Abel grew with each passing day until it clouded his thoughts completely. One day, Cain approached Abel with a plan in mind. "Let's go out to the field," he said. Abel, unsuspecting and trusting, agreed. Together, they walked out into the fields, away from the eyes of others. But once they were alone, Cain's anger took full control. In a fit of rage, he turned on his brother, striking him down. His actions were fueled by a dark, twisted jealousy, and in that moment, he took Abel's life. It was the first murder, an act of violence that shattered the peace and innocence of their family. When it was done, Cain felt the weight of what he had done, but there was no going back. The ground was stained with his brother's blood, a silent witness to his act. Soon after, God came to Cain, knowing what had happened but giving him a chance to confess. "Where is your brother Abel?" God asked. His voice was filled with sorrow, knowing the loss, but wanting Cain to face his own actions. But instead of owning up to his crime, Cain replied with defiance, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" His answer was cold, and he refused to take responsibility for what he had done. He tried to hide his guilt, as if he could escape the reality of his actions. God's response was filled with sorrow and righteous anger. "What have you done?" he said. "Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Abel's life had been taken, and his blood was like a voice, crying out for justice. God continued, "Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand." The ground itself was affected by the blood that had been shed. It would no longer yield crops for Cain, and he would become a restless wanderer on the earth. Hearing this, Cain was overwhelmed with fear and despair. He cried out, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." Cain was terrified. He feared that his isolation and vulnerability would make him an easy target for revenge. But even in his judgment, God showed Cain a measure of mercy. He reassured Cain, saying, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." To protect him, God placed a mark on Cain, a sign that anyone who encountered him would recognize as a warning not to harm him. With the mark in place, Cain was sent away from his family in the presence of God. He journeyed to the land of Nod, east of Eden, where he began a life marked by isolation and wandering. Despite his exile, Cain went on to build a city and start a family, and his descendants contributed to the development of human civilization. They became builders, musicians, and metalworkers, pioneers in various skills that would shape human society. Yet the story of Cain and Abel remained a painful reminder of the consequences of unchecked anger and jealousy. It was a lesson for all who came after them, a warning of what can happen when we let bitterness take root in our hearts. Through this story, we learn about the destructive power of envy and the importance of controlling our emotions. We see that sin, if left unchecked, can lead us to actions we would never have thought possible. Even in the face of such tragedy, God's mercy is evident. Though Cain faced punishment, God did not abandon him completely. He protected Cain from harm and gave him a chance to live out his days, even as he bore the weight of his actions. The story of Cain and Abel serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found the story of Cain and Abel insightful and meaningful. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more Bible stories, be sure to subscribe, as I'll be covering many more stories from the Bible. Don't forget to like and share, and I'll see you in the next one.